Your first 10 episodes were, I'm going to use a word that you didn't use, okay-ish.
Yeah.
They weren't that great, the first 10, except for episode 2, which was a little bit more remarkable, and you had a conversation with a friend. What I'm thinking, if I'm listening, but I haven't yet launched my podcast, is I'm thinking everybody that's ever talked about their first episode or the first 10 episodes or the first 30 episodes, in Jürgen's case, it's the 10. Everybody who's ever said it says their first X amount of episodes were shitty.
Yeah.
Or okay-ish, we'll call it. My first such and such. And so I might be wondering, A, how do I make them not okay-ish? And B, should I just not do a podcast at all because I know that my first 10 are not going to be that good? So, Jürgen, what would you say to the listener who's trying to make sense of all but episode 2 for you out of the first 10 you weren't so happy with? What should they do either to be better or to be okay with subpar content?
Well, when I say they were ordinary or they were subpar, that's
ordinary. Sorry, that was your word. Ordinary, not
that's
okay.
Reflecting back on them now. At the time, I felt very uncomfortable doing it, but I was reasonably happy that I'd done them, and I felt comfortable sharing the conversations with my audience and growing my audience on the back of those conversations. One of the things I did at the beginning, and this is something that I'd certainly recommend people do, is I was in a couple of networks, and I reached out to some people on those networks to say, hey, I want to start a podcast. It's going to be an interview format, if you like. I want to bring guests on. I want to have conversations with those guests about their business and what lessons they've learnt on their journey and what they can share with the listener. Would anybody like to practice with me? And I did about 6 or 7 practice recordings that we never published, and they weren't necessarily people that fit my audience or my topics. It was simply a way for me to practice speaking with them. And then at the end of that, I said, how was that for you? Do you have any feedback for me? So I got them to kind of critique me as the guest of the episode. The other thing that I then took into the actual episodes is at the end of each episode, when we debrief, I asked the guest, what did you like? What can I improve on? What can I do better? So that in every episode, I'll get some sort of feedback from the guest, and often there'll be something there that I can consider for improving and changing for the future. The other thing, which I didn't do at the time, but is available to us now, I think at the time there weren't so many directories where you could guest podcast on other people's shows. I would go on as many shows of somebody else as possibly you can when you're first starting out as a guest, because that will help you refine your message, that will help you practice conversations with people, and it'll also give you a sense of how good podcasters, or how experienced podcasters, put it that way, how they run their systems.